Summary of Chapter 3 of Conversations with God, Book 1. The Threefold Nature of Being. You are a threefold being: body, mind, and spirit. These have been named in various ways throughout history: conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. Id, ego, and the superego. Energy, matter, and antimatter. Every part of you contributes to the whole, and your soul is the sum total of every feeling and experience you've ever had. Your memory is the process of remembering, or putting back together, these pieces of yourself. The process of creation. Creation follows a structured path. 1. Thought. The first level of creation. Everything that exists began as a thought, including the universe itself. Word. Thoughts become more powerful when expressed in words. Words carry a greater vibration and have a direct impact on reality. Action. Words in motion. Action are thoughts manifested into the physical world. Every part of creation follows this cycle, from conception to realization. Even God follows this process. The God is both the beginning, thought, and the action, experience. Forgetting to remember. To fully experience yourself as divine, you first had to forget your connection to God. The purpose of life is to rediscover and recreate yourself in alignment with your highest truth. However, most people delay this realization, avoiding their power to create, to live as God intended. You must believe in your divine nature and live accordingly. Living as the highest version of yourself. To shift your life, start by imagining your highest self, the version of you that aligns with love, wisdom, and peace. Then consciously adjust your thoughts, words, and actions to match this vision. This requires deep self-awareness, moment-to-moment choices, and a commitment to living in alignment with your divine nature. Many people live unconsciously, unaware of how their choices shape their reality. They only recognize their thoughts, words, and actions after experiencing their consequences, often denying responsibility. The shift to consciousness requires consistent effort, but over time, expressing your true, loving nature will become second nature.
Judgment and the illusion of good and bad. The universe does not judge. No condition is inherently good or bad. It simply is. All conditions are temporary and ever-changing, and the direction of change is entirely up to you. People judge themselves harshly, whether for wanting to live fully or for wanting to let go. This inner conflict creates suffering. Instead of judgment, listen to your soul, which seeks only the highest experience of love. The soul's desire, perfect love. Your soul's ultimate longing is to experience the highest form of love, oneness with all that is. Perfect love is not the absence of emotions like anger or jealousy, but the inclusion and transcendence of them. Just as white light contains all colors, perfect love embraces all feelings, allowing for deep understanding, compassion, and forgiveness. To experience this highest love, your soul must go through every human emotion. How can you truly have compassion if you have never suffered? How can you forgive another if you have never erred? Your journey is about embracing all experiences and choosing love in the end. Your divine nature. At your core, you are goodness, mercy, compassion, understanding, peace, joy, and light. You are a healer, a teacher, and a source of strength. In moments of your life, you have felt these truths. The key is to live as your highest self every day, thinking, speaking, and acting as the divine being you truly are. So this chapter means to me, like the first part of it, thinking about thought, word, and action. I think about, like, you've all heard of the golden rule, and I always call it the platinum rule, where your thinking about others should not be judgmental, critical. You're thinking about others. You shouldn't, think bad thoughts about them or yourself, or be overly critical or judgmental of yourself either. And your words, of course, people go and gossip and complain, and these are the things that really bring your vibration down. And so I think between thought, words, and then of course actions, right? Treat others as you want to be treated. You should definitely always treat people like you would want to be treated, but also treat them like their highest self too. And really, if you have a relationship with someone that is maybe a little strained, it's like maybe even having like a meditation where you are speaking to them as their highest self, and you might realize what they're feeling and why they're doing what they're doing.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, I think it ultimately mirrors back. I mean, these are things that I am actively learning, and in the present is, the way you think. I mean, it shapes not just your own reality, but it shapes how things come back at you and what you experience in those that you interact with. So, finding that means of really just always keeping the right frame of mind when it comes to others, how you interact with others, how you think of others, and just know that, I think we talk a lot about perspectives, and it's like understanding their perspective, understanding that, I think that we all have a different perspective on what's going on in our lives. So ultimately, you don't really understand what their true experience is, and to try to do so and try to put your own frame of mind around it, ultimately, doesn't really serve anyone. So, again, it mirrors back, it's.
So I think, and I think to just kind of expand on that a little bit, it's, if we are here and we are God in human form, and the things that are, we all have different experiences happening through us, then it's like, I mean, each one of these chapters builds on that same fact, right? And I think the hard part for people is we go to church, and the typical church says that God is judging us, right? Well, why wouldn't we in turn, as humans, be judging other people and be overly critical? And so it's like, if you can get to this place of not feeling like you're being judged and you're not judging other people, to me, that is ultimate peace. And so it's like, if we're really supposed to, and I truly believe that God, we are here because God wants us to be abundantly wealthy. He wants us to be so beyond happy. He wants us to experience heaven on earth. And the trials and tribulations that we're going to go through in life are just part of the experience. So whenever you can go back and you can look at the experiences, whether you had a traumatic childhood or whatever has happened in your life, when you can go back and look at certain things from a positive light and just find one positive thing about what happened, it changes the whole trajectory.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, gosh, it's crazy. We agree on all fronts, but I mean, what could go wrong? In having that mindset. And I mean, when you speak to, church and religion, it's like, ultimately, when you live in abundance with that mindset, when you live in a state of joy and you try to keep yourself there consistently, and you're being, the best human you can be, it's what could ultimately go wrong in doing so. I mean, you make a few more friends, you have a much more dynamic relationship, with your spouse, with your parents, with your siblings, with whomever you interact with, so it's, I mean, but to the contrary, if you're in this place of, we are being judged, consistently, and we put that judgment therefore out on others, I mean, it certainly doesn't make for a strong, budding relationship of any sort.
Right. And I think even just to reiterate your point earlier, it's like the whole idea of what you put out into the world is exactly what you're going to get back. So I always say the secret to living is giving, right? And giving positive, giving love, operating out of love as much as you can. Most days, that's what I write down as my intention. Operate out of love. Be love. And I think that if people would just realize that if they're putting negative out into the world and they wonder why they're having negative things happen in their life, it's pretty obvious, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, too, it's like, it's not that we're going to always have our best days. We're not going to always have our best moments. I mean, it's like, we all spend lives, to some extent, getting in this place where, we have to find ourselves there and put ourselves there and establish or reestablish habits and a mindset to that differs from maybe what you've experienced. And I know that in myself, I've spent years, with a different mindset that ultimately I am now having to work my way out of. So it's like every one of us, has, I think, a responsibility to just look a little bit more within and understand that, while, society, culture may act a certain way, it doesn't mean that we have to make that choice every day. So it's like, we can choose different.
Awesome. That was chapter 3.